This is LA Wildcats quarterback Josh Johnson, and this is the XFL show.
If you smell what the XFL is cooking.
Welcome, football fans. This is the week of November 7th, 2021. On the road to kickoff 2023. This is For the Love of Football, and this is the XFL show. I'm Alan.
And I'm Bryant.
The best XFL quarterbacks are taking over the bad NFL teams. And the state of Alabama is almost as excited for the USFL as they are for the Tide. This is episode 195. 8JJ Great Bryant, Josh Johnson, making us all so proud this week.
Ain't he great? Are we sure it was Josh Johnson, though, and not like his, trainer under that helmet or something like that? Just disguised as Josh Johnson.
That was Josh Johnson, the one we all know and love.
I shook his hand.
As far as I'm concerned, real XFL MVP. Your good, close personal, longtime, dear good friend of the show, the journeyman of all journeyman quarterbacks in the modern era, shows up for the Jets, throws 3 TDs. Unfortunately, they didn't win, but wow, what a performance.
Not for lack of effort on his part. I think when you give up, 40-some points, you don't win too many games. I don't know how many the Jets gave up, but they gave up quite a few points. If anybody needed a bag of crumbs to get back to where they started in their career, it's Josh Johnson.
Yeah, it was really cool to see, and XFL fans, we always revel in that. So we'll talk some about that. We'll talk a little bit about actually last week's show. Got some good feedback asking everyone what their biggest fears are on the road to kickoff, and we'll get into some of that. And of course, Bryant's favorite, very little USFL this week, Bryant, but we will get into it just a tad because I have a question for you.
Fine. You're going to be losing listeners every week if you keep bringing it up, to be honest, but it's fine.
I don't think that's true. And actually, we're going to ask them a question too this week. 724-565-4XFL. If you want to call the XFL Fan Line or leave us a text or voicemail, get on the show even, just let us know. Say, I want to be on the show. Leave a voicemail. We'll put your voice on the show. 724-565-4XFL. Standard text messaging rates do apply. At XFL Show on Twitter or wherever you do your social media, you could reach us at XFL Show. Of course, we are brought to you by Pretty Easy Podcasts. You can go to prettyeasypodcast.com right now to get your own podcast started with your own producer and all the help you would ever need at an affordable rate. You've always thought about podcasting, but you don't really have the time or the energy to really learn how to do all the audio parts, all the editing, all the posting your show and doing all that. You just want to talk and put a show together. That's what Pretty Easy Podcasts is for. They do just that. Just go to prettyeasypodcast.com right now to get started. And I'm telling you, it's going to make podcasting a breeze for you and your friends or whoever. If you know someone who wants to podcast, tell them prettyeasypodcast.com. My guys at This Is the XFL Show told me about it. Their show sounds great. Yours can too.
Because they make podcasting pretty easy. So easy that I really feel like a lot of these networks that are putting up shows and stuff like that really should be contacting Pretty Easy Podcasts. Like, let's be real.
It's like every time you watch a show, I mean, it doesn't matter what genre, Bryant will always message me like, God, what are they doing? Why are they not calling? Why can't their show should look at least as good as ours? I mean, it's not the highest of bars. I mean, I know he gets very upset watching Bravo, especially.
Oh my, Bravo! They just refuse to put money into their shows and just have people fight on cameras. That's all they do. It's really bad. Sorry. Below Deck, though, it's a really good show.
Rant over, but yeah. I know where you're coming from. This show looks all right. I think your background saves the day mostly for the production value with your beautiful setup in the back. But I do think you have a good blank space right there for some Josh Johnson, maybe every Josh Johnson jersey. He's like the
Ooh, I wonder
Yammer
if I have a
Yager
Josh
of
Johnson
football.
card. That is true. That's a good point. Except, I
Every
mean, Yama
team's
Yager
jersey.
actually played, and he's a Hall of Famer. No, I mean, not disparaging the man. It's just a little different.
You're right. I mean, in terms of quantity of jerseys, very similar.
I mean, Yama Yager took 3 years off of the NHL and still is like the second leading goal scorer of all time. That's how good that guy was.
Don't remind me about when he came back though, and the team he was on. So let's move on from that before I get really angry and I rant. Terry, thinking and dunking around here. Terry hit us up on the XFL fan line text and said, "Yo, Alan, you should just start PJ Walker this week if your team is as bad as mine." I was
agree.
thinking about that, but
No, I think you should. I think you should.
Starting.
You probably still have a better chance. You probably still have a better chance. Yes.
No, I was able to somehow land Kirk Cousins, and I got Russell Wilson waiting in the wings. I'm making a comeback. I don't need PG yet.
Aren't you 2 and like 6 now, or what are you?
Yeah, somewhere like that. But there's
should have picked up Josh Johnson
in the NFL. You know, I didn't know. I thought Mike White was the second coming of Joe Namath, and then that things happen in the NFL.
And all of a sudden we found out he's Jason White and not Mike White. Really, it was just look. I think we're getting into this conversation here in a little bit about XFL players, but it is a crapshoot. Like, you could still play PJ Walker, and he might play. He might. There's a good chance. It seems like that's the chances they're getting. Who has Taylor Heineke in our league? Does anybody?
I don't know. Actually, I don't think so. Maybe not even as a backup. No, he's just in the. We have a deep league too, but he's still a free agent.
Yeah, we're 12 teams, right?
2-6 Washington football team.
I'm feeling good about my year. Look, I want to go off a little bit. Triple J would appreciate this conversation on fantasy football. I'm having a lot of fun this year. I'm actually up in the ranks. I usually am never there. I'm always in the middle. And I have a pretty good team. I have a pretty solid team. I made a great trade early this season, swapped Atlanta wide receivers. Some poor fool. I don't know who would ever do that, but I was like, okay, and did it. And look at me.
All I want to say
rolling.
is I hope Calvin Ridley gets right and comes back to football. I wish him best of luck on his personal journey. But what 100%. A horrible trade by me. Damn it. All right, let's move on and let's get into this week's Cover 2.
Just calm down.
Okay, so last week we asked our fears on the road to kickoff. Bryant, for the XFL. It was spooky season. It was Halloween last week. We asked, what are you scared most of on this road? And really, for me, it comes down to just I fear for the rule book a little, but not too much. But if I'm going to be scared of anything, it's that. And we got some good responses if you're ready to hear what some of the listeners and viewers are scared of on the road to 2023. We'll start with Kev_new360, who on a YouTube comment told us their fears on the road to kickoff and said, I'm afraid the XFL could potentially make changes that would cater to the NFL in order to bring up a potential partnership or even NFL takeover. What do you rate that on the fear scale? Is that
0.
Something you actually fear? You're not scared of it at all?
I don't think the NFL wants any part of this at all in any way, shape, or form. They don't need it. And why expose yourself out there even more? That's like the NBA with the D League, right? It's like the NBA needs it, but why? Why have it? The NFL's doing fine. They don't need, unless they wanted another 12 teams to make money off of, which I guess would be the only reason to think of it, but they could do that on their own. They don't need The Rock. As powerful as The Rock is, the biggest movie star in the world, is a little bit more powerful than him in the football world. The NFL.
Roger Goodell in the NFL.
Yeah, NFL, exactly. So they don't need The Rock to do this.
Yeah, also with that, catering to the NFL, I don't know, unless you bend over backwards and totally, just provide free services, the NFL is not going to pay for a minor league. They have college football already, and they can just deepen their practice squads if they want to do that. So I'm not too scared of that, Kev, but I know where you're coming from. You want the XFL as its own entity, and I definitely think that's something you don't have to worry about. That will be the case in 2023. The XFL is rolling solo as its own thing. Who knows what that is exactly, but it will be its own thing. No NFL needed. Sonny hit us up on the fan line and gave us their fears and said, I think they might already be over-promising on the entertainment content and will underdeliver. If there is no Hard Knocks type show, I will be disappointed. So Sonny's saying that they're already talking a big game about the entertainment side of it, and they need their documentary style show. Bryant, where your fears lie with that? Do you think they're going to underdeliver the entertainment content?
Well, under deliver is relative, right? I mean, you look at what they're saying is going to happen versus what actually happens, I guess. I don't know if they're really selling it as, hey, we're going to have this thing that you're going to have hours and hours and hours of entertainment. They are saying that they're trying to make this a year-long thing, right? Where it's not just during the season that you care about the XFL. So, Hard Knocks to me, I've never really watched Hard Knocks. Have you been a big Hard Knocks guy? Have the Steelers ever been on Hard Knocks?
Hell no. No, they haven't. And I've probably watched it when it first started years and years ago. And then I have definitely gone many seasons without watching it. Maybe an episode here or there, but not really.
See, so to me, Hard Knocks isn't I'd like the in-game sound, those types of things. I like I like what goes on behind the scenes more so than just Hard Knocks. I feel like Hard Knocks is kind of I don't know. It had its run for the most part, but look, if you have something, I'm okay with it because the XFL in 2020 didn't really have much of this exposure that hopefully we get in terms of the entertainment value.
Yeah, and I don't see where Sonny's coming from where you think they might under-deliver because, one, they're not over-promising anything, if you ask me. I think they're talking about entertainment content year-round, and sure that they've mentioned that, but it's not something they're, like, selling real hard just yet. And I think you're probably burned a little from last time because in 2020, there was a lack of extra in terms of content. There was us. And then they had, like Bryant's brought up, some pre and post game shows on the YouTube channel for the league, but not a lot of extra shows to get you excited for the XFL. So
we were their post game show, by the way, Alan.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, we were the post game show. That was us.
Yes.
And then part of the pregame show is sometimes.
Yeah, you were actually, huh? Doing your
a little bit
stands from the hotels and stuff like that. It was great.
But if you're comparing to 2020, the bar's low, Sonny. So I don't think you need to be too worried about that.
Well, he did say they're selling it. He said they're overpromising. So he's comparing it to. So do you think they're overpromising right now?
I don't. But Sonny's following it. I like that. They're following what Danny Garcia is saying, especially who's been hammering home the entertainment side of things. But I don't think you got to worry too much about it. But I understand why you would. Devin, last one we got here, Bryant gave us their fear. Devin said, "I just fear there won't be any more Seattle Dragons." I don't know about that. I honestly,
if you rank the 8 teams in who would come back and who wouldn't, I'd put the Dragons up there at like top 3 of who would come back. If you talk about the top 8, like think about it. What teams brought in the most money or looked the best? It was St. Louis, Houston, Seattle. Those 3 were the best teams in terms of draw.
The draw and the people in butts and seats. Strictly
butts
talking.
And seats, atmosphere, fan engagement. I would say those 3 are the top 3.
But the name
and we
Dragons,
talk about how Seattle. Well, the name
know.
Dragons is a question mark. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's when it comes to what teams are coming back. We've had this discussion, and it's really, really tough to call. I definitely would put money on a relocation of one of the teams of the Tampa team, and something going on with one of the Texas teams. I don't know if Houston would move because they did so well, but I don't know if Dallas would stay in Dallas. That's another thing I could maybe see happening. For Seattle, though, I'd understand it, Devin, but I really don't know. I guess Bryant's right that they did on TV at least look like they had some support. I didn't look into the ratings for that market. I mean, I'm not a
but you're talking about
much, but
even in the standings, they were not.
Yeah,
I think they might have been. I'm just trying to remember records off the top of my head. I think they had won one game, right?
Yeah, they weren't great.
Won one game.
But in terms of support, we know Seattle supports teams. I mean, up and down. How are the Kraken doing?
They're cracking.
They're cracking. They're not having a Vegas Golden Knights first type season though.
No, not at all. No one thought that. Nope.
No. but Seattle supports their teams. We know that.
But
So
they're supporting the team. Yep.
I could see an XFL team coming to the city. The Dragons specifically, who knows what the new ownership wants to do with the branding and the team names. It's a whole nother bag of hammers, Devin. But thanks for sending us the message on the XFL Fan Line at XFL Show on social media, responding to last week's show.
I know it's just only covered 2, so I don't want to get too deep into this. Maybe we'll talk about it next week. But at what point do you think that we should come to a realization that maybe 2020 is its own thing and 2023 is its own thing?
Its own thing as in just
as in
totally
2001 was its own thing and 2020 was its own thing.
Never.
You think the proximity of 2020 is what's allowing us to bring it up as a thing for 2023?
Proximity, but also I do have a gut feeling that there will be a lot of hooks left in 2020 that are, being dragged through to 2023. There's the rule book, hopefully. There's maybe a few team names. I don't know. The cities. The style of the presentation of the games, I don't think will change much. I don't see why it would. But I think ultimately too there will be acknowledgement of 2022 from the 2023 season on. You have to. Unless it's completely a new rule book, a completely new presentation, and they
so do you think they'll present it as
say we're not related to that league?
Do you think they'll present it as, hey, we were here in 2020, it didn't work, or then we were stopped, but we're back and better than ever? Will they acknowledge 2020?
Ooh, acknowledging the 2020 season at all publicly. I don't think in any of the marketing that will happen, but maybe in Q&As or interviews or press conferences that ownership does, or players and coaches when they
do you think someone's going to be like, hey, yeah, we're trying to keep the foundation of 2020 and move as we move into 2023? I don't see that happening.
I don't think they'll use that phrasing, no. But I think you're going to see players and coaches from that season in the future season who are going to acknowledge why I joined the league again, because I had so much fun. I joined the league again. 2020 was great. Now we get to redo it with new ownership, and I feel good about it. I could see that happening from the other people who are going to eventually join this league. From the ownership, publicly, I don't expect that too much, but I think we'll see it happen in some form or fashion from The Rock, Danny Garcia, maybe even people at Redbird Capital. I mean, Redbird Capital we've seen interviews where they've mentioned, how that season proved the viability of football as an entertainment property. And of course they use all the corporate language, but we've seen a little bit of it already. I think it's just not outright acknowledgement like we would hope. 2020 was great. Let's just keep doing more of that. We're not going to see that.
It's just, I don't know. I was getting this feeling in my head that we should just move on, but
move on from 2020. No. There's too much.
It'll be easier. It'll be easier to deal with the disappointment if something isn't brought over if you just move on.
Just move. So you really fear for the rule book now more and more.
Well, I fear for everyone's fears. I'm a caring
for
man.
Their fears.
I'm a father now, so I got to care about others, not just myself.
Okay.
And, I feel like to soften the blow for everyone, just pretend 2020 didn't exist and
never
move on to 2023.
I will not do that. I'll take the pain of rule book changes if it happens and move on from there with the hurt. I'll carry the hurt into 2023
big
if
hurt.
I must. Yes, Frank Thomas right on my back walking through the entire season. I don't care. But
I'd love to see Frank Thomas on your back, to be honest with you right now. That'd be great.
I could carry him even with all that eugenics rushing through his veins. I got him. I'm getting powerful lower body right now, walking all over Italy. I'm feeling good. I could carry the big hurt right here. Fireman carry.
Oh, right man, over. Oh my God, I would pay so much money to do that just for charity or anybody. Oh my God.
Well, what he works for Fox, right? If Fox is a TV partner and we do XFL stuff again, and he's part of the family, maybe we'll do one where I fireman carry him across the 50-yard line or 100 yards. I could do all the way down the field.
You could even do 100 yards
as a
on your
halftime
own.
show.
You're going to put the Big Hurt on top of you.
Talk about entertainment content for the league. Air the halftime shows every game. That'd be great. Dogs catching frisbees, podcasters carrying MLB legends on their shoulders. Be great.
It would have been at the LA Wildcats game. It would have been what's it? Cal State Dominguez Hills marching band. Would have been great.
Oh, sweet! Marching bands. I'm all for it. I'm all for every team having.
Got to hustle.
Having its own gimmick like that. Not every team should have a marching band, but definitely some teams should have their own.
Can you tell that
band.
I'm just delaying this next part 2 of the cover 2, by the way? I'm just trying to just give it as little time as possible.
Are you trying to inception me so I forget that we're supposed to talk USFL?
We already did part 2. Let's go.
On part 2 of the cover 2. This is really quick. This is very quick. The rumor is that people in Alabama are really excited. Their local government is claiming that Fox is going to be announcing the details of the USFL soon, and we all have seen this come in the last couple of weeks with all the money being shuffled around and secured for the funding of the league to play in Alabama, where, they're almost excited for the USFL as they are for Alabama to get into the playoff and steal a title from Georgia. Probably not, though. I have a question, though, for you. How will you celebrate whenever the USFL, it might be next week, might be this coming week, when they announce the USFL details on Fox? How are you going to celebrate? And then another question for the viewers and listeners, you gentle viewers and listeners, gentle football fans, you want to see us talk USFL more? Should we do a whole USFL show on the side, Bryant? Since Bryant loves it so much and I love it so much, should we talk more and more once it's announced?
I'm okay. I'll give you two sides of this equation. Celebrate is a strong word.
Yeah.
I don't think I want to celebrate this. I will analyze it. I will dissect it. You'll do a cartwheel. When was the last time you did a cartwheel, Mr. I can handle Frank Thomas on my back? All of a sudden, you went to Italy. You became this super athlete.
I am. Yeah, I'm feeling.
Are you walking around without shoes?
No. You got to wear shoes. It's like all bricks here, and just jam your toes.
Man, did you go to the Coliseum and just run laps? Just feel like, ah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I snuck into the museum. I climbed the statue of David, took a selfie with him. Feeling good. I'm gearing up to try out for the USFL. That's my plan. Fullback.
Oh, okay.
For the Pittsburgh Maulers.
Look, celebrate's a strong word. I would definitely be interested in the details. I'll analyze the details. I'll dissect the details. I'll talk about the details. And if there's enough meat on that bone, because we are gnawing on bones as we speak, talking about this show as the time goes by.
Bone Gnars.
I'll do a show. Why not?
Yeah, I'm excited for the Bone Gnars. Let's save that for an episode title when there's really nothing to talk about one week. But yeah, when the USFL details are announced, if it's this week or next or whenever, we'll be talking about it. I hear for sure. And then, maybe if there's enough, like Brian said, when you want it, we'll probably, we have a little bit of time. Brian has a little bit more time now that he's like eased into daddom and life's moving on. Got some time to maybe do some more shows, more content, more entertainment content.
Hashtag Great Resignation.
Yes, the great resignation is a beautiful thing. But there you go, Brian. That's all we have for USFL this week. Just rumors, the announcements coming soon. So I wanted you to be ready.
I'm ready. I am ready. You ain't ready.
Oh, I'm ready for the hot read to talk about Double J, baby, making us all proud. 27 of 41, 317 yards, and 3 touchdowns for the New York Jets. Josh Johnson, former LA Wildcats quarterback, our favorite XFL player on the show. Well, one of. The MVP of the XFL 2020. I'll never let go of that, Bryant. What a game coming in relief. What?
You had him as third. I had to talk you into putting him into second.
Yeah, but time passes by, and now I'm agreeing with you.
You get to recast your vote.
I'm not recasting my vote, but I'm just agreeing with you. You changed my mind. I'm giving you credit. You're a great advocate for Josh Johnson. Except accept that.
I acknowledge your acceptance.
There you go. And accept that Josh Johnson is a legit quarterback, should be, I think, a number 2 somewhere in one city for more than one season, damn it, for at least a portion of his career. We'll see if that happens, but I don't know what it says more about Josh Johnson coming in looking that good, or the Jets, who had Mike White looking pretty damn good and winning a game that no one thought they would win the week before, or the state of the NFL. Who knows? But in terms of being capable, the former LA Wildcats quarterback proved he's that. Taylor Heineke is the quarterback of a 2-6 team, but isn't their worst player and is handling the job okay. Could be better. PJ Walker is on the cusp of maybe taking over for a really bad Carolina team. I don't know. Sam Darnold he's not great, but their offensive line's terrible in Carolina. It's hard to say, but when you look at these XFL quarterbacks and then, of course, all the other XFL players in the NFL, what do you think the ceiling is then for an XFL player in the NFL based off what you've seen with the 2020 players in the current National Football League? Brian, can we see a full-time starter at the quarterback position? We've seen Storm Norton play a whole lot at tackle for the Chargers. I mean, if you look at like the deep stats of like Pro Football Focus's, Storm Norton is far from the best tackle in the NFL, but he's being serviceable, starting a little bit. Where do you see the ceiling, though? Can we see a superstar NFL player come from the XFL? Where do you put it at from what you've seen so far?
It's hard to answer that question. I mean, the generic answer is there is no ceiling, right? I mean, that's just the truth of it. You never know. Everybody looks at that player. Yeah, everybody looks at that player and it's like, you don't have it. And that player does have it. And all of a sudden it's like, like that's how it happens all the time. So I get that, that's just the typical answer you can give. It's like, yeah, there's no ceiling. Any player can do whatever you want. Now you got to look at the reality of the situation. The reality of the situation is we only have ever had XFL players, or really spring football players, really for that matter, the last century, this century, excuse me, that haven't really had a chance to kind of develop in an XFL environment. They've played one season, they went off of that season and went on to NFL careers. What happens if you get a young player who gets 3-4 pro years under him in the XFL? All of a sudden, you never know what's going to happen with that type of player, right? So in this instance, I'm going to say the ceiling's not very high because the whole point of the XFL 2 is to get you tape, to get you playing time, to get you reps. And if you don't get those reps, if you don't get that playing time, then at the end of the day, are you really doing yourself any favors by playing in the XFL? Probably not, in terms of what you can do in the NFL.
Yeah, so you bring up a good point. The goal of the XFL is to have players playing in the XFL for multiple seasons and developing their skills, and then maybe they go to the NFL on their own personal journey and they kick ass and become superstars there as well. But what we've seen are, a season and a half in this century, like you said, and from 2020, what we saw from those players was there are a lot of guys you saw in that league that they totally could at the very least, be journeymen in the NFL. And, I think we see at quarterback guys that could be good, just a good backup to have. A guy who's played a lot of football, enough football in the pros that you could trust, like a Josh Johnson. Or up now Taylor Heineke has a ton of NFL snaps under his belt. PJ Walker maybe has to prove that a little bit more, hasn't had the opportunity in the NFL too much. But we've seen guys, I think, prove that they can at least, if I'm saying it, the ceiling is solid backup in the NFL, reliable backup. We haven't seen anyone bust out and be, I think, a full-time reliable starter from that season. But maybe we have to let go because it was only half of an XFL season. But those are players that we'll always talk about and reference. Yeah. But the truth is, what we want to see is an XFL with multiple seasons under its belt, players playing in that league for multiple seasons, and then going to the NFL. And then you see exactly what the possibilities are. Like for the CFL, you have that. You could see, where can a CFL player go in the NFL? And the answer is very rarely. I mean, it's like hitting the lottery. Will you see a player go from the CFL to the NFL and become a name in the NFL? And we've seen it like with a Doug Flutie and a Warren Moon. Like, we're going back.
Kurt Warner,
guys,
or is that Europe?
No, he was the NFL Europe. But
sorry.
We've seen the CFL send guys, quarterbacks with who are already recognizable, going to the CFL, fine-tuned, and then got a shot in the NFL and did some things. And then you see guys come from the CFL too that build up a resume and maybe find a solid position, like a Cameron Wake is a great NFL edge rusher. There's ways to develop in the CFL and then become a solid starter, and maybe there's maybe even a Pro Bowler in the NFL. There's a route to do that. There's a way to do that. You have to be very talented. Hall of Famer, I mean, that's like, there's going to be like, there's got to be, two guys? Maybe. Yeah, that's no. I wouldn't put it that high. But your Pro Bowl is as high as I'll go. I want to give the NFL its due here. So Pro Bowl from that league, from the XFL, will we see that? I don't know. We saw it, I guess, if you go back to 2001. I think Tommy Maddox might have made a Pro Bowl. Did he?
Ooh,
maybe.
It's a good stat.
Maybe as an alternate Pro Bowler. But currently, we don't really know. Like Brian said, the easy thing to say is that we don't. There is no ceiling yet because there's not enough data. But I think if you're just talking the 2020 players, that group, I don't think we're going to see any. Ultimately, we won't see any Pro Bowlers from that group. But I think some of those guys could be sticking in the NFL for at least a handful of years, and maybe even landing as a starter, one or two of them. We'll see. But that's where I'm at with it right now. But I get excited seeing any of them succeed still. So that was cool to see Josh Johnson. And the Jets are so bad. Let's hope that he just plays the rest of the season, and it'll be cool to keep an eye on all year. I'll watch every Jets game because I'd have to. Go Wildcats.
No Pro Bowl.
No Pro Bowlers.
No Pro Bowl. No Pro Bowl on
Tommy Pro Bowl for Tommy Maddox. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's
only. I think it's
interesting because there's this weird misconception that the XFL players that were playing were already at their potential. That they were already at their ceiling. Like, this is the best they'll ever be.
Yeah,
and
far from it.
That's not. Yeah, far from it. Right. Like, imagine you getting 1 year of college football to prove what you had to do, and then you get drafted based on that.
It's the best you'll ever be if you don't get to play football again. That's the truth, I guess.
That's the truth of the matter. Yeah. But if you get 3 years of playing where you get to develop your skills, get good coaches, get good coaching, and really get the reps in and start practicing all year round and get ready for this the way you're supposed to, then there's really no ceiling, because then you become all of a sudden a player that, now we're talking about what's the potential of a player that's playing in college.
Yeah. Without limits is what you want to see it go to. Currently, I'd say there's probably a limit on it, but we're only talking about a small group of players from 2020. Most of all, I want Josh Johnson, though, Bryant, to play all season long, just for our good, close, personal, longtime, dear, good friend of the show, Mike Mitchell, to cover him and watch him as a Jets fan and as, of course, a huge XFL follower. So, rooting for that for him, too.
I will say there's probably one person in the entire universe that has covered Josh Johnson for both the XFL and the NFL.
Oh, you mean like closely, game by game? Yeah.
That's Mike Mitchell.
Yeah, probably Mike Mitchell. So good. It's good for him. I'm excited for him.
Good shout out to Mike.
Yeah, he rules, and we'll have to get him back on soon too. Once the crescendo starts with the XFL, but for now, the music is not playing on that side. The crescendo of news. So that's why we're winding down another episode here, Brian. Unless you got anything left, we've covered it all. Now this week we just wait for that USFL announcement and cartwheels.
No, that's it, man. As I am waiting I am very excited to see what happens with the USFL. As you can tell, I'm so excited.
I've never seen someone so excited. My goodness.
I'm-
Contain yourself.
I'm doing cartwheels in my head as we speak.
Literal cartwheels. Well, depending on where I'm at next week for the show, the space here, I could have done a cartwheel. I don't know where I am for next week's show, Bryant, but if I have enough space, do a cartwheel on the show for the announcement. Which means when the XFL makes an announcement, I'll have to do backflips.
That I will pay to see too, and you can see that every Sunday right here on your favorite podcast app. That's Google Podcasts, Apple, Stitcher, TuneIn, wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you go set 5-star review and tell your friends about us. If you had a question, comment, or topic you want us to cover, well, text or call the XFL Fan Line 724-565-4XFL. Remember, standard text messaging rates do apply. Also, follow us on all social media platforms at XFL Show, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, anywhere you want to see us on social media. Or if you want to say hi, we'll subscribe and watch us on YouTube at xfl.show, the official website of This Is the XFL Show. And don't forget to check out our sponsors, Pretty Easy Podcasts. Go to prettyeasypodcasts.com and get started today, because they make podcasting pretty easy.
Even with really janky Italian internet, they make it easy.
Your power never
seamless.
cut off again? All good?
Knock on wood. We have a couple seconds left in the show. Yeah, the power went out here. I'm in Florence for a second. I don't know. I plugged in the toaster into the wrong outlet. You know, they have different styled outlets here. It's confusing sometimes. But I was good for the show. We made it. We got it done.
How's how's it looking to find an XFL fan in Italy? How's that
I'm
journey
leaving.
going?
I'm leaving Firenze. I'm leaving Florence today. Ciao Firenze, but no XFLers here. I saw some Atlanta Braves fans dancing in the streets the other day, which made me sick.
Were they running as fast as that bus?
What bus?
Oh, have you seen you got to watch the videos, man. It's great. The tour bus driver in Atlanta is just flying down the damn road. Doesn't even stop to say hi. It's great. It's great.
Oh man. No, they were dancing in the streets, and that's all I've really seen here. I actually saw a guy wearing a Vegas Raiders jacket. Kind of made me sick. But no Wildcats or Dragons gear out here. Maybe in my next stop in Parma.
Very curious. You got to
all the Parmesan cheese.
How long are you going to be there for? Where are you going to be on Friday or your Saturday?
For next week's show, Roma. No. Be back in Rome.
You got to find a nice spot to watch U.S. versus Mexico.
Oh yeah, and we have the Italian national team playing here next week, so I'll be fully immersed in the sports bar culture next week. I think I'm going to have a good chance to find an XFL talker.
Wear your XFL gear
about on the show
in those sports bars.
Because I also have to go. There's also a Steeler bar in Rome I'll be at next week. I'm very excited.
Look at you.
Which is kind
your
of
wife,
like
I'm sure, is loving this trip.
Whole trip
so
is
much
centered around the next coming week. Yes, but so far it's been very cultured and statues and medieval.
I want to
towers.
see a cartwheel in the streets once you see the USFL news. By the way, that has to be on tape somewhere.
And all these Italians around me looking, what is this crazy maniac doing? What's a USFL? United States Football League, mamma mia. I'm a high five bunch of people. They won't know what's going on, but they'll like it.
Yeah, they won't know. But yeah, they'll like an American looking like an idiot. Why wouldn't they like that?
They see it all the time. All right, well, that'll be for next week's show. Until then, everybody, for Bryant, I'm Alan. This is the XFL Show. Remember, they're listening.